Hey, mate.
Hey, speak of the devil.
Did you want
Hey, Josh
please,
is. We were waiting for Josh, and we pressed the live button, and he's
literally
arrived.
about to start.
We actually have started. It's all right. It just shows the reality of how it. We're live. Don't worry. It's all right. Just don't put your bum on the camera.
By the time she gets here, but never mind.
We're live. And remember,
Hey, Josh. That's all right. That's all right. Good to see you, Josh. How you doing?
You're right, mate.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
There you go. Happy?
Josh is already happy. You can see he's relaxed. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay.
Do you pen and paper or anything?
I'm right.
Alrighty. Let's go.
So this is your topic. You chose it, isn't it? So you intro.
Okay. Well, my thanks to Khaled for hosting this show and inviting me and this wonderful human being to my left.
Thank you.
Named Josh. My name's Dust. And we're going to talk about nationalism. We'll get the clock on the time on the clock going. And I mean, we'll just quickly in a minute, if I can, cover what nationalism is. It's basically a tool to cover a lot of horrible crimes. So waving a flag, saying it's my flag under the umbrella of a country, can be any country, but it's always these countries that have nationalism and dominate nationalism are all run by external factors, which I would class as Abrahamic or capitalism. So when these people do actually talk about nationalism, it's clearly a false flag they are flying, because really they're flying the flag for Abrahamic religion or capitalism, depending on your depth of knowledge on these subjects, which one you'd like to choose. And with this flag, they surround themselves with words like tradition, words like honor, and you've got to be a man by being strong and repressive and violence, and factors like this, which are part of the lexicon of this nationalism, which is so prevalent with this group of people. They are literally just hiding pretty horrible. Now, what is horrible they are hiding? They're hiding colonialism. Thank you. Poverty, war, genocide, rape, and lots of other insidious political tools hidden under the banner of a flag or patriotism, which is also the same thing as nationalism as well. Would you like to add anything as an intro to?
I think that I think that moderate patriotism, if used correctly, is can be used in an effectively virtuous manner. But I do think that certainly extreme nationalism is a tool to divide the working class and essentially prevent them from uniting against the oligarchs. But I mean, I do believe that every country has the right to sovereignty, because otherwise you are essentially encroaching on a country's sovereignty and becoming imperialistic. In doing so, becoming imperialistic. And moreover, I think that identitarianism is dangerous, but people wanting to retain their identities up to a point is in and of itself not a bad thing. And another thing is that I've always said uncontrolled immigration is not left-wing at all, because it allows.
Well, let's just keep on the introduction of
nationalism.
So we all agree or disagree what nationalism is.
In terms of what nationalism is putting your country's interests ahead of any other country's interests. Internationalism is aligning, is unifying, and is aligning your country with others, alongside others, in a common interest.
Okay.
Patriotism is simply the desire to defend your country's sovereignty and its identity, which, as I say, there's nothing, at least in principle, there's nothing wrong with that.
So just let's remember who are the poster childs of nationalism. Nazism sold its brand of family values. Sold the brand, yeah. Sold a brand of its family values.
Sounds
Sold it of family values, and if we get rid of these people that like gay people, like emancipated Jewish people or enlightened people, if we just cleanse the world of such, and others, of course, gypsies and disabled, if we just cleanse the world of such things under the idea of nationalism, then we can have this perfection of what the nationalists call humanity, which is one culture under the strict dictated guidelines of a king or queen, and they use their power base stems from not from a community, but not from human beings, but from whatever voice they have in your head being, you think, is a god, of course, most of the time, unfortunately. And with that, they think they have special power to commit all the crimes and many more, of course, I've just listed. Right, I've had 5 minutes, so would you like to come and talk about what I've just said?
Yeah, I'll press that chess clock button. Yes, please. Yeah. So
try and speak for 5 minutes, and we can have a debate for 10.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to make it quick. So nationalism has become quite an interesting topic to me. Hello to everybody listening, especially Sam from Israel, because I'm next door to you, Sam. I'm in Jordan. And since I've been in Jordan, I've seen a lot of nationalism. They've got not only do they have huge flags that you can see from miles away, which you would never imagine in England, I think. But also people sing the national songs all the time. You hear it. You don't have to wait for any sort of national occasion. And the result is, and this is why it has anything to do with happiness, because I always try to relate everything to some level of human happiness and making the world a better place. There is a kind of nationalism where people get together and feel united together, and it creates community. And I've seen this. I went to a party where somebody graduated, and they were singing for hours, and they all knew certain songs, and they weren't. I think they were all like famous songs of the culture, and they were, in the streets and inviting the neighbors to come and party with them, and none of them needed alcohol to do it. And when you have a common culture, you feel sure of how to connect with each other. Like in England, we can't even make eye contact because there's no rules about, when you're going past each other on the pavement, people avoid eye contact. They can't smile at each other. Over here, there's some basic rules about, yes, you should smile. You should say, based on the religion. And this is an interesting point Dust made. Normally, Dust says everything is Abrahamic religion's fault. And I would actually say nationalism. Actually, let me quickly say too, there's two kinds of nationalism that I've experienced. In Europe, a lot of nationalism is anti everybody else. That's a negative kind of nationalism. And I'm talking about positive nationalism, where people are excited about something. They don't necessarily have to be against anybody else. Like Jordan isn't against the rest of the world, but they're pro their own country, and they're really excited about their country, and they really celebrate anything good that happens in this country, and they party together so much. And I'll briefly mention two things from the Quran. I'll say it super quickly. Says, "O mankind, we have created you, male and female. We have made you tribes and sub-tribes that you may know one another." Meaning, you should know each other's good qualities. Verily, the most honor among you, surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. So it's basically saying we're always in tribes of different kinds. And the benefit of these things is so we can learn from each other and say, if that tribe or that nation is good in a certain way, we should copy those habits. It's just like individuals as well. And then also, I was saying, I was agreeing with Dust for this time that Abrahamic religions do create nationalism. Because you cannot have an identity based on individual choices and a sort of what you call a liberal society where everybody has their own truth, as we say nowadays. Like if you've got an opinion how the world works and somebody else has an opinion about how the world works, everybody's going to follow their own way. That's why you don't have nationalism now anymore in Britain. But the Quran says, and hold fast altogether by the rope of Allah, be not divided, and remember the favor of Allah He bestowed upon you when you were enemies, and He united your hearts in love, so that by His grace you became brothers, and you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it. Thus does Allah. Basically, essentially, the rope of Allah is just one root that we're all connected to, which is God. Okay, and everything else is just individual thoughts, and nobody's going to follow, let's say, Dust's personal thoughts. But if there's something united that unites us all, which is God, that's the only thing that actually creates nationalism. So he's correct. You need religion to create an identity that connects us all, because God connects us all. Yeah, thank you.
I think that was a very good intro. I think I'd like to respond with very clear this concern you have about individualism. I mean, you've misconstrued deliberately, possibly or possibly not, what it is to be individual, and the responsibility comes with that. You just think you keep accusing a rationalist of being an anarchist, not an anarchist, and you associate anyone that doesn't agree with your fixed state of reality as being an anarchist, and you push everybody into that same bucket regardless of being an anarchist or not. You do have communities, no matter how powerful, and let's say Hitler's your leader, Khalid, and he creates the image of what a family is, because it's the leadership in nationalism that creates an idea of what a human being is. He'll hate gay people, then yeah, Hitler, nationalist, Abrahamic, would absolutely have a list of people that hate Jewish, emancipated Jewish, gay people, and he did decide that, and you have no choice. And this idea that having people with different opinions is a crime is absolutely unbelievable that you would. So
I will say though, if we say that, nationalism is bad, we still have people are still. I'm not saying people are entitled to put such beliefs into practice, but if we ban people who are nationalistic from expressing their opinion, we are also ourselves being totalitarian. So we've got to tread the line carefully when it comes to censuring those with nationalistic views. Just for a level playing field. I'm not saying we are, but obviously we've got to.
I would never proposition such a proposal.
No. Obviously, I just think sometimes we can end up doing it and not realising.
But this idea that people having their own thoughts is a crime, and having their own identity is a crime, or against what Khalid is trying to create here, which is one
false dichotomy.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
And one. Maybe. Everyone should look and act like Khalid, and if they happen to be gay or happen to be an artist wishing to create something different, then they've committed a crime instantly from our Abrahamic representative in front of us here. They've committed crimes as a step out of line, and Khalid's got a great video of how he's so proud of dictatorships and why they bring good to society. And just like, the Muslims, as well as obviously the Christians, joined Hitler into creating Khalid's perfect vision of what a community looks like, which is white people here, brown people there, black people there, and multiculturalism. This is a crime, humanity, a crime, individual thoughts, individualism, a crime. Everyone's going to be like the leader. And that leader, of course, has no interest whatsoever in family values, because let's not forget Hitler, that Khalid is bizarrely and unbelievably in awe of, whether he would say that openly, I doubt, but definitely the characteristics of what makes a man is Khalid definitely thinks that someone like Andrew Tate, like Hitler, definitely propose, because they'll get the Khalid jobs done, which is done through violence and cleansing, and none of this nonsense of democracy and none of this nonsense of hearing what other human beings actually feel about the world. And you can have communities together with different thoughts and ideas, but what you can't do is stop someone having those thoughts and ideas. And in a dictatorship, that clearly outlines a path to the horror which majority of history has always lived through, which is genocide and pollution, poverty, and rape, which has been the common themes under Abrahamic religions. Would you like to add anything?
Just so you know, I put the link
obviously,
to anybody can join if they want. Because there's some people we're going to do an experiment. Let's see. So anyway, carry on. But I put the link just for everybody if they want to join in person. Yeah. But go on, Josh. Go on.
Yeah. I do think that, you know, extreme nationalism like German nationalism is obviously very destructive, and has proven that, needless to say. And I would say that, you know, Scottish nationalism as well, which did have some rapport, some association with Nazism, that is also not, in my opinion, a very good form of nationalism. English nationalism, not a very positive force, not a positive force at all, really. I think that, you know, it's fostered a breakup of. It fostered fostered a very perilous and very existential threat to the unity of our island, that is Britain. So those kinds of nationalisms are definitely bad, positively bad. I'd say that, you know, maybe, you know, the lesser forms like Soviet nationalism, which is a thing, while a bit of a contradiction, at least it did attempt to, you know, maintain socialism and, you know, and the unity of the Soviet Union, albeit in the end unsuccessfully, although it did hold together for quite some time. But I think that, you know, as I was saying about, you know, certain globalists and capitalists who, you know, sort of purport to be, you know, who masquerade as liberals, you know, they try and tout, you know, uncontrolled immigration as this very left-wing thing. And, you know, like, as history has proven, you know, like, uncontrolled immigration into the Americas was not left-wing at all. It was about as colonialistic, as imperialist, and as capitalist as you can get. You know, the EU immigration is among the most racist immigration policies, because white Caucasian Europeans get preference over people from any other continent. So that's an example of a really, really bad immigration policy. And we mustn't even get started on the kind of immigration policies they have in what is now Israel, and how that really was not at all left-wing. I know that I'm bringing immigration into this, but I do think it's quite relevant. You know, and often immigration can be used very nationalistically in the context that I've just described. So, you know, as I say, you know, this is where one has to sort of distinguish, if you like, demarcate between patriotism and nationalism. Nationalism is not about throwing open the floodgates to anybody. It's not about, you know, relinquishing sovereignty, nor is it about, you know, allowing, you know, another polity with its own interests and agendas to run your country's affairs, you know. And patriotism can be used to defend a country against that. But nationalism, to me, is where you start placing your national interest ahead of others, instead of having a sort of, if you like, equity and mutual understanding. And I think that's how I define the difference. That's how I distinguish between nationalism and patriotism. But certainly, you know, as I've said, you know, and I've said it again. I've said it before. I'll say it again. You know, patriotism and nationalism, are actually two very separate entities, despite what people tell you. And nationalism is the most extreme form and can take on the clothes of any kind of ideology it wishes to, and still in its essence still be nationalistic. Colonialism in the Americas, as I've said, as nationalistic as can be. Colonialism in Israel, colonialism in Europe. In regards to the recent conflicts, and in Bosnia and of course in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, they are all. A good example is like how America has, utilized, exploited, appropriated Ukrainian nationalism for imperialist purposes.
Yeah,
and that has a very very deplorable legacy of anti-Semitism and Russophobia. Or the way in which, the way in which. The imperialism is high.
30 seconds left.
Yeah, okay. The way in which American imperialism has actually utilized Pakistani nationalism because it has tried to drive a wedge between India and the former Soviet Union, what is now Russia, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, because Pakistan is one of the biggest client states of America, and of course Israeli nationalism, aka Zionism, it's definitely hijacked that, and that is where imperialism and nationalism do go hand in hand. On the other hand, sovereignty of other countries is something that imperialism does categorically disrespect.
Sentence. Right, yeah, just to round up that, basically, if you want to commit a genocide and need to get your population to help you with that endeavor, nationalism is your go-to ticket with that. And that's how history has always, the last 2,500 years, been conducted. Okay.
So I'm excited to have my friend Sam. Well, I've heard good things about you, Sam. How is your voice there? Is your mic working?
Yeah, I'm here.
So you could take my time. I'm only gonna. So you've got some views on nationalism. Can I just say, less than a minute?
Yeah.
I think, in theory, without nationalism, yeah, you can have communities, but it doesn't work. Nationalism gets people together, and without nationalism, you can see nationalism dying all over the world, at least in the UK and in America. And people are committing suicide because they're all alone. They're not finding community. It's really sad. And nationalism doesn't have to be hateful towards anybody else. It just means like trying to make your own communities better. That's all I've got to say about that. But I'm really excited to hear you, Sam. You go for it. So you go for it like you got 5 minutes or 4 minutes.
Well,
go for it.
I've been interviewing an author that goes by the name of Joseph Atwill on my Facebook channel every other week. And he wrote a book about the origins of Christianity called Caesar's Messiah, and also Shakespeare's Secret Messiah. So he's a very, abstract and well thought out person. And he has his own take on what's happening now to the Western world in regards to convincing the people of the West that they should give up their national identity and go for wokeism and globalism and quasi or new age Marxism. It's old Marxism, but it's just packaged in a new package, in a new age wokeism package. His case against it is very clear cut and sort of understandable as to just what you said before, Khaled. It's a form of self-destructive. It's trying to diminish any form of pride in your ethnicity, in your religion, in the nation that you were born to. And in our faith, just as in the Islamic faith, having nations is not a sin. God created nations. It's not meant to be an amorphous world of supposed equity with no national identity, no religious identity, no sexual identity. And then at the same time, there's an attempt to alter all these things. And according to Atwill's take on it and my take on it, that's why I brought up secret societies, and that's why I brought up the Freemasons and there are plenty of other secret societies. And one of the capitals of these secret societies happens to be the city of London and London. British Freemasonry. It's very well known that they have a hand in manipulating culture and manipulating global politics as a part of the empire of way back when. It's an underhanded means of mind control and not only mind control. Like you have the Tavistock Institute over there in England, and they're well known for also manipulating social movements and doing research on social conditioning and human conditioning. Just like the CIA and the Mockingbird media, there's an angle here of secret societies, cabals, oligarchs, elites.
How can we prove all of this, though? What you're saying? I don't want to interrupt too much, but
it's very easily provable. You just go to London. You live there probably, and you go to the hoity-toity areas of London where you have their offices, like of the Lucis Trust is right next to the UN headquarters found in London. And other
are we straying off nationalism here a bit?
I'm talking about the secret societies and the power brokers of the West that have become.
I'm aware of what you're talking about. The topic is nationalism, not secret societies.
They are trying to undermine nationalism. There's a globalist agenda of undermining nationalism right now, deliberately.
Okay, so you're presenting Freemasons, which is in the UK. I've been to their headquarters, had a tour of their headquarters,
right.
And their patron is the royal family.
Right.
So you're accusing the royal family of being Freemasons.
Yes.
And I would say, I've always said, which is that which the royal family represent the Abrahamic religions. So you're accusing your own self and your own ideology.
I don't see Christianity as an Abrahamic religion. If you understand the position I take, it's the same take that Joseph Atwill has on Christianity. Christianity is an artificial construct that dates back to the time of the Romans and the Jewish revolts against the Romans. We just recently had a find of the swords of the rebels found here in the Dead Sea and the hills in the Judean desert. It's kind of like strange that it should be at this time that we realize that the royals of Europe, the oligarchs, the aristocrats.
So does that mean he's got how many? What does that mean? The 5 minutes 10. What does that mean?
It's just all I'm saying is just keeping track of time.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying.
It's wonderful speaker.
Christianity is a molestation of Judaism, and the origins of it are pretty well understood if you read the book Caesar's Messiah, or if you watch the documentary. It's a quasi-Abrahamic religion. It actually serves the interests of the royals of Europe and of all the oligarchs of Europe going back 2,000 years. It's the divine right of kings. And how dare these people, take a ride on our backs and our faith and pervert it for the sake of royal oligarchical supremacy over.
Because we're not here to convince anybody of one particular thing. Not that we're not going to here to convince people, but we'll state our opinions and then leave it at that sort of thing.
No, but I hate being accused of things because I don't believe that.
I agree.
I don't take I don't have the same take on Christianity as being an Abrahamic religion. I see it
No,
as
I agree where you're coming
a
from.
perversion of the
Yeah.
Jewish faith.
Yeah, I agree. That makes
Mm.
sense to me because,
Mhm.
if you go through it historically. So you've had an opinion there. I don't want to summarize your opinion. That would be wrong. Claire,
Hello.
how long, by the way, Dust, how long do you want this particular talk to go? So we've
Well,
got
if it's evoking a lot of thoughts and a lot of dialogue, we should just push it until it becomes monotonous or just
I'm good with
we'll go
that.
off
I just
subject.
thought I wasn't sure if you're eager to get to the next topic, but I'm happy with
I'm
it.
happy to definitely say this is definitely an extremely important topic. I'd like
It
to give,
is.
I'd like the new speakers, by the way, could they also give their definition of what they think nationalism, please, in it as brief as possible before they interject this debate with their opinions and thoughts.
Sure. So Claire, go on. Why don't you give your idea of nationalism before you say your opinion, please?
Nationalism is government in the national interest. So I don't see why anyone would argue with this definition, because we all live under governments, and if we're ever expected to make any sacrifices for our society, we would be assured if the government says it's for the greater good, the long-term national interest, and all that sort of thing. And we know that Trump is a nationalist, and that is heresy to liberals, and that is why they want to jail him and kill him and, besmirch his reputation, because he dared to say the N-word. He said, why can't I be a nationalist? I mean, naively, he actually asked that. And that, I think, is what attracted all this odium on himself. He's now accused of being anti-Semitic and racist, but actually he has a lot of non-white supporters who don't agree with immigration. And I think we have to accept that people don't want to feel swamped by any other group. It doesn't mean they're racist, but they're just feeling a little uneasy. And my recent study of Pakistani history is that Muslims kill other Muslims too. The Muhajirs were massacred by the Pashtuns in Karachi not that long ago. So, people just, even of the same religion and the same race, people don't like it. I think we can all imagine how we would feel if all our family descended on our homes and decided never to go. I think we would end up wanting to kill them. So, this is
all our
something.
families. I didn't understand that last bit. What do you mean?
I'm saying if we could imagine all members of our family just descending on our homes and refusing to leave.
And you're saying this is linked to nationalism?
Yes, I'm saying people who are nervous about immigration, who don't like it, don't like being told that they're racist just for complaining about it, but this is the narrative. No national leader is allowed to even make an argument in favor of nationalism without being accused of being Hitler or Mussolini or any of the bad guys that World War II was about.
So
that's
just
the
family
argument. Yeah, just conflating every form of nationalism with Nazism is a straw man argument.
Yes.
But I just want to check. So your family idea, what you're saying is the nation is a family, and if people from other family or your extended family turned up and refused to leave, that's the equivalent of the immigration problem where unwanted people are coming. Is that what you're saying, Claire? I'm trying to understand the metaphor.
More or less, I'm saying that even if the people you're supposed to like, the family, kin, blood, if they all descended on you in large numbers and refused to leave, you'd end up wanting to kill them, even if, as you know, that they're, your kin and, your blood relations, etc., etc. I mean, it's not that unusual for, family members to kill each other. In fact, it probably happens more often. I mean, I think if we end up being murdered, we're more likely to be killed by somebody we know, usually somebody.
Your lover, usually, actually.
Yes,
yeah.
True,
true.
So the sort of pretend, fear of foreigners is sort of may be exaggerated. But I mean, basically, people just want to feel that the government is looking after them. And a lot of people in the West and in other countries, they don't think their government is doing the right thing. So they don't feel that their government is governing in the national interest. They suspect their ruling classes to be incompetent and corrupt and never even think about governing in a national interest. And I suspect a lot of Americans feel that way about the Biden administration. They believe that the election was stolen and not for good reasons. And, there's this sense of increasing chaos, confusion, and distrust of their government, whom voters feel do not govern in their national interest. And even this very anodyne, very weak definition of nationalism is not even being supported, because I don't think any country is even allowed to suggest anything about nationalism, to even talk about it, even in the most non-racist way, because that is not what the American government, well, that's not what Washington wants. It wants all its vassal states, the NATO member states, to just keep obeying its orders and to keep taking immigrants. And Sam, Israelis are complaining too, aren't they?
Yeah.
They've been forced to take Ukrainians who were meaner than Nazis to them. It's
Direct
the Second World War.
descendants of the Nazis. Yeah, they were complicit with the Nazis,
And
yeah. So it's like there's a prime directive that we can't ignore of these overlords that are corporatists. And
can we make it so we go round in a circle so everybody keeps having turns? So
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you're seeing the same circle as I am. So it'd be me, then Dus, then Josh, then back to you, Sam, then Claire, and then
Sure.
and we'll keep going until everybody, as long as everybody's happy.
Until
with
we
it.
start repeating ourselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you done with your? We're trying to go maximum 5 minutes at a time.
Okay, I think I've taken up my 5 minutes. Thank you, but that's all I wanted to say about nationalism. It's not really allowed.
Sure. And I'm going to be really quick. I'm aiming to be about 1 minute. Because so my points are, so earlier on, Dus said we can't enforce rules on everybody. That's nationalism, but actually we do that all the time. It's called the law. Okay, so you can get together, like, what do you as a community really value? That's also called democracy, and let's enforce those laws. If you don't like homosexuality, then those can be your rules. Looks like a lot of people are upset with it. A lot of people are not upset with it. We've got to have some level of democracy. And if that, and there, you might say, why pick on homosexuality? First of all, I think as a Muslim, and my particular kind of Muslim, we're called Ahmadi Muslims, we say love for all, hatred for none. But we do say at the same time, some things are unhealthy for society, like just in terms of reproduction, it doesn't work, obviously. But also, you can have all sorts of other issues with homosexual behavior, which, but anyway, that was just a topic you pointed out, Dus, so that's why I'm mentioning it. There can be all sorts of reasons and practical reasons that we can choose one law or the other. And so that's one thing. I think that was it, really. I can't remember the other point I was going to make. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, you want me to go? Yeah. Anything more to add about nationalism?
And the points that have been brought up.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, no, anything more. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I certainly think that the irony is about the royal family, what the gentleman brought up about having associations with the Freemasons is kind of ironic, because the royal family are actually pretty nationalistic. They are, I mean, imperialist as well, to be fair.
Imperialist. I'd rather go for the imperialist before the nationalist.
Well, yeah, imperialist before nationalist, but still I mean, a few British, or at least few English nationalists would want to abolish the monarch, even though I put myself do, I'm, I believe in the sovereignty of our country, but it certainly is not achieved through having a monarch. I'm a Republican, and I believe that, a head of state should be elected. It should not be hereditary. You don't get a good job because your dad was in a good job or your mother was in a good job. Much as I believe in the family unit and the cohesion of a family unit, I don't think that you should get you should advance through life because of patronage. You do it because of your own achievements. In fairness, that will be in part due to your parents' achievements and their efforts to help you accomplish your achievements. So it's not quite as clear cut as all that, but certainly you don't just get bestowed with the title because the person who gave birth to you had the same title. I mean, that's just nonsense. I'm sorry, whichever rational way you want to cut it. But anyway, the point about it. Anyway, the point about it is, I might want to pick that up. The point about it is, that the royal family are definitely a facet of nationalism. They're not an anomaly, they're not.
They're an institution.
Sorry.
They're an institution. They symbolize the British culture and British pride, and the British cling on to it and as a form of tradition. But I think there's a growing movement in Britain of people like yourself that would identify themselves as being Republican and anti-royalist, or not. The royal family is losing its popularity and its admiration, its admirability. It's not. They're no longer admirable. With all the sordid things that have been,
Be succinct when it's someone else's.
But as I say, in relation to your point again, the monarch is, she is the Queen of England, and while I don't think she is personally nationalistic, I do certainly think the royal family have a history of being somewhat prejudicial and somewhat nationalistic. If we take, for example, the alienation that Diana suffered because she married an Egyptian, was going
politics.
But they're not ceremonial. They're not ceremonial. They do actually wield a lot of power.
Undermining the whole royal family by the way she was behaving, and well.
Shall we just try to remember
the way she was?
Don't get into a debate. Let them make a sentence.
Sorry, go on. Continue. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So, Josh, when you're done, then Dust, and then we'll just keep going around. Otherwise, I'm not sure it'll get a bit shouty. I think. Not that.
I think
that's okay. I don't mind.
We've just heard some great thoughts and opinions from everyone here. So I'd just like to show the contradictions that have been displayed so far, and the truth of what nationalism actually means to one of our speakers already, which is that Trump's allowed to overrule the laws of a land because he's nationalistic.
No, he isn't. He's been targeted. He's been
You've made
cancelled, and you agree because you're a leftist.
Claire,
you've made that statement. But there are laws. It doesn't matter if you're left or right or an alien or a stone orbiting the planet Earth. There are laws in America, and those laws clearly I'm not going to keep interrupted. You've made your statement, and you can come back when it's your time. But so there are laws, whether you're right wing, and those. Let's not forget the president, the senator of Georgia, is a Republican who recorded the conversation of Trump begging him to find 16,000 votes to cheat, and so that Trump could get elected. And Trump decided that the only solution to losing was to do an insurrection, and that's done under nationalism. He thinks it's so important, so linked to God, so linked to this Abrahamic dictatorship, that the idea that any rules written on this planet applying to him and his nationalistic fever is abhorrent to him, and he's now conducted himself accordingly. He's now been tried for an insurrection and deliberately undermining the democracy. There was fraud nearly at the ballot box, but it's recorded by a Republican senator it was Trump begging him to do that.
Do what? I mean,
sorry, I haven't finished yet.
Yeah,
You will
close,
have time
close.
to
no,
respond.
this is taking forever. We're talking about nationalism.
I've still
There's
got
no need. We
3
don't have to
minutes left.
litigate the whole thing.
Your
We're not
Clear.
time.
is definitely appreciated, but if you could just hold on to that youthful passion you're presenting, and your turn will come accordingly much quicker,
Clear.
rather than wasting time having to lay that out, repeat the rules again. And let's not forget this idea of immigration, which is a nationalist way of a tool of spreading hatred and violence amongst what they regard as the right people. Immigration only happens because of Western policies to bomb, impoverish, and commit wars in other countries. The only reason you want to leave your country is either to go on holiday or because your home's been bombed by an Abrahamic missile coming from America. They don't just randomly get up, right, I'm off to England. Right,
America doesn't have a religion.
And they don't wake up and just go, right, I'm off to go to another country. No, unless you're going on holiday, the reason why you leave your home is because of the Abrahamic crusades, which are constantly I got 1 minute left, which constantly perspire through our history. That's why immigration happens, because of the horrific poverty being made by these wars of repression and Abrahamic delight. And this is all done under the flag of nationalism. We are the right people. And this one idea of being the perfect image, anything that diverges from that is seen as a criminal act, and the punishment is extermination. That's how Hitler viewed his. That's why the Muslims joined. There was an SS division of Muslims, let's not forget. That's because they agreed with his Abrahamic crusade across Europe. And there I finish. So next speaker is
Sam.
Sam.
Or was he left?
No, Sam, yeah, go for it,
All
Sam.
right. All right. Yeah. Well, I have a unique perspective because I grew up both American and Israeli, and I have half my upbringing in the United States, and the rest of my the second half of my life I returned to Israel. So I have a multi-sided perspective on what you're talking about. As far as Trump, having grown up in New York and in Trump's hometown, and he grew up in Queens, I grew up in Brooklyn. That's where he's from. Vilifying Trump and just throwing all these wild accusations against him, like the all the litigation and the lawfare and the criminal lawsuits against him, and as far as him looking to manufacture votes, I think that's a fraudulent and false claim being made against him.
It was recorded by a Republican senator. That is recorded. It's not a false claim.
Well, you had your time there, Dusty.
Now we're allowed to make statements.
I'm not looking for a back and forth with you. I'm just responding.
We're allowed to make statements.
We said we would go around.
I can easily say that you made false statements. Just as much as you can say I made false statements. You had your time. I'm responding to what you said. All right. So the thing is, with the criminal litigations and the accusations being made against Trump, I see it as clearly a form of what he called, and I agree with it, election meddling to get him off of the ballot, for the 2024 election. And the people in America right now that voted for Biden are having voters' remorse. They're disgusted with themselves. They're disgusted with Biden. They're disgusted with America. Biden is a phenomenon of corrupt American politics, and he's a career politician, a corrupt career politician in America. And his whole administration is the leftovers from the Obama administration. And they are implants. And I'd say they're the implants of the oligarchical class being at one of the roots of evil at the top of the pyramid, being your royal family over there in Britain, with their still lust for imperial conquest by means of subterfuge, and by means of mind control, and by means of social engineering, and by means of wokeism, and by means of globalism, and by means of perverting all that is good and holy. They are satanic and they are sick people. Your Prince Philip himself said before he died he wished to come back as a virus, and he was not being, what's the word you Brits use?
Facetious?
No, not facetious. Cheeky. He wasn't being cheeky about it. He meant it. He wanted to come back as a deadly virus to kill off the masses and as many people as possible. That's what he said he wanted to come back as. And you have the origins of the. Are we on Facebook? So you have.
We're on Twitter and YouTube.
Okay, YouTube. Okay, so I can't. I'll get your channel clip. I'll get your channel answered.
So you're saying nationalism is the cure?
No. Nationalism is only part of the response to globalism, wokeism, and New Age Marxism, nihilism, atheism, progressivism, and absolute degeneracy. Okay, it's absolute degeneracy. The world is turning against it now. And a majority of the world's population has become fully awakened and open-minded, and their eyes are open to it because they see
the world is woke.
They see the true form of being awake to the lies and to the mind control and the conditioning. When you try to get people's children into satanic worship and in the guise of the LGBTQ agenda, being trying to initiate children into Satanism for the sake of LGBTQ, that is where you really wake up the masses. Okay, that's where you wake up all the traditionalists from the Middle East, the traditionalists in Asia, in Africa. The whole world is turning against the West for this reason, this social issue. And at the top of the pyramid is the Freemasonic agenda, the British Freemasons, the American Freemasons, and you have Obama and Biden being servants of the British. And the LaRouche Pact, Lyndon LaRouche made the clear evidence of these people being British agents. They're British agents.
Cool. So we'll wind up. We've done 5 minutes. I think we are going to wind up soon. So, Claire, what do you want to say? I've got like a 1 minute thing to say after that, and then I'm done, sort of thing.
After Claire's finished her 5 minutes, we should all have 1 minute. 1 minute to conclude.
I think that's great. Yeah, good idea.
If everyone's happy with that.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's good. It's good. Yeah. Because
that's fine. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah. So we have 5 minutes, Claire. I'm gonna do a 1 minute round each. Go for it, Claire.
I think Duss is deliberately weaving a false narrative by saying that American foreign policy is something to do with Abrahamism. As we all know, America doesn't have an official religion, so no way can you say that whatever the Americans are doing is because God told them to do that. What is the official religion of America anyway? So I don't know what you're on about. I mean, they call it neoconservatism. So neoconservatism is nothing to do with God.
Sorry, Josh wants to make a statement quickly.
Sorry,
just a little one,
just
Josh.
to cut across you. I don't think they do have an official religion per se. Officially, but de facto, we mustn't forget that their motto is "In God We Trust." Of course, I don't disagree with the sentiment of that necessarily. I'm just saying, that is one of their mottos. So,
statement made.
Religion does play a bit of a role, I would say.
Back to Claire.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me that America doesn't have an official religion. They may say all kinds of pious things about "In God We Trust" on their dollar bills, but their policy is nothing to do with God. But let me inform you that George Washington, in his farewell speech, said something about religion, and he says, "Observe good faith and justice towards all. Nations cultivate peace and observe good faith and justice towards all nations, cultivate peace and harmony with all. Religion and morality enjoin this conduct. And can it be that good policy does not equally enjoin it? So we see that Washington is talking about religion, but he can't be talking about Christianity, because Christianity has nothing to say about foreign policy. It is a scripture that is without any guidance. That's why the Christians had to culturally appropriate the Old Testament and use it, and because all the laws of Judaism are in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, i.e. the Torah, i.e. the first 5 books of the Old Testament. So there's nothing in the New Testament that has any rules at all, and the Christians had to use the Jewish scripture in order to get any kind of rules at all. And now America, the founding fathers having separated the church from their state, have no official religion. So basically they just make up crap as they go along. What they call neoconservatism is American imperialism. And if they have a global empire, you have to expect them to move people around, to move goods and services around, and to move people around, as the Spanish did when they trafficked in slaves, as the British did when they trafficked in slaves. So what we're complaining about as regards immigration is basically America treating the rest of the West as an economic zone and just saying, Jews, you've got to take these Ukrainians. Oh, the British, you've got to take these Ukrainians. Germans, you've got to take these Ukrainians. Because basically all these countries are the 51st state of America, but they don't know it because they're supposed to think that their government and their leaders care about them, but actually they don't. And that is my point. They're not governing in a national interest, and the people don't know what the hell their governments are doing. But they can't actually make their parliaments accountable or Congress accountable, because they don't have any basis to do that. Because if you call yourself Christian, Christianity doesn't say anything about foreign policy, because Jesus never became king before he was executed and crucified. So basically, Christianity is basically a religion that says, shut up or we'll burn you at the stake. And and that's it. And now basically what the church does is obey whatever the government says. So if it's gay marriage and transgenderism and whatever kind of rubbish they cook up, that's what the church has to support. And that explains the corruption of the West. So all the problems that is being caused by America is to do with the fact that America doesn't have an official religion, not because it has. So I've finished my point. Thank you for giving me the time to make it.
Wonderful. Yeah. Right now, everyone has a minute.
Yeah, cool.
Conclusion.
So I would conclusion. I think, my conclusion is nationalism doesn't mean you can't be part of a better world. Part of national self-interest is take care of the rest of the world as well. Because if you have a terrible world, you're not going to survive in the world in which you exist. So I don't think there has to be this false dichotomy of nation versus internationalism. You can have both. That's it.
All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'll say my last remarks as far as nationalism is concerned. Nationalism and culture go hand in hand. Once you take nationalism away and you create this gray matter of an internationalist, globalist world, then you dilute culture. And if for the sake of the greater good or for the sake of equity, and that's what you have in America. That's what I experienced firsthand, is that you have people, the Brits and the Europeans always like to snub their nose at Americans and tell them they have no culture. Well, it's because America is the engine of globalism. It was used by the imperialist British and the bankers, the central banker class of both a old world Europe and old world Britain to basically conquer the world. And once you and the objective of the oligarchical class is to have peasants and serfs. They don't want nationalism, and they don't want culture.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, would you like to have your minutes?
Yeah, the problem is, though, a lot of nationalist movements, you know, they co-opt those things you just listed, particularly Scottish nationalism. I think that, you know, I'd say that, you know, Israeli nationalism, I think it's kind of ambivalent about those things, because it's you know, it's always eager to prove how culturally, well, not always, but, you know, there are certain Zionists who like to prove how culturally superior they are by embracing things like wokeism and transgenderism. I mean, you know, and sort of aver how liberal they are compared to their opponents further eastward.
Not me. That's not me.
No, I ain't saying it's you, mate.
But I know the types you're talking about. Yeah.
Sorry.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you regarding
right, fair enough. Okay, so I just gave you 2 examples off the top of my head.
10 seconds.
About examples of how nationalism co-opts those things that you say do not go hand, because I know you said what goes in hand, but you also said what does it? What is a threat?
Oh, let just Josh say his bit.
Yeah. You need to conclude about nationalism. Is it good or bad?
Nationalism. Yeah, go on, mate.
No. We're not.
No, we just want to do. We want to wind this up.
We're not. This is not debate now. We've moved on.
Okay, right.
Let the viewers make up their own decision of what they've heard. But go on, Josh. You just finish off your bit because you're
last
interrupted
sentence,
a bit.
please.
Like anything, nationalism can hijack any morally degrading value. You know. Yeah. Just as
just as every forms of control in the hands of controllers and the power brokers, everything can be abused. Religion, nationalism, everything can be abused.
Okay, Sam, so we're just winding this up anyway.
You're just repeating the point that was already made. I don't mind, but
anyway,
the point was made. Okay, my minute starts now. Basically, nationalism is used by Hitler, by Trump, nation states to conduct horrible things like murdering gay people in concentration camps, because when you don't like an evolved human being, and there always will be in society different people other than yourself, the only solution is to get rid of them, expunge and use chemicals, abuse them, shout at them, and make them disappear from your view, which has been the solution for most of the nationalists. It's their solution for most of their disagreements with this planet that we all live on together. Nationalism is, as I said, is Trump, who is a profound oligarch, the absolute representation of that little group of misfits. And nationalism, there's nothing good ever to happen from nationalism, but there is good coming from human beings, and to celebrate what it means to be human, no matter the colour or religion or ideology. Thank you. Are we done? Has everyone had their honors?
Claire, you want to do 1 minute?
I haven't had my go.
Yeah, Claire.
Go for it.
So it is disingenuous of us to equate nationalism with Nazism and extermination of gays and Jews, and it is typical. It's a typical leftist trope. But I'm saying again that nationalism is government in the national interest, and therefore we should, as we all live under governments, we would like the government to govern in the national interest, and therefore it is in the national interest to have a religion that promotes good domestic and foreign relations. And the Quran has a lot of suggestions and recommendations about how to do domestic and foreign policy better. I know you will be always rejecting the Abrahamic God because it is a very useful way of making people obey the laws, the eternal and universal laws from one generation to another, and that would be the practice of marriage, which I guess a lot of people aren't interested in these days.
Right.
Great.
That was fantastic.
Wind up, Will. Wind up.
Fantastic. Dust. Very beautiful. Everyone had their points and were very elegant and polite. And I believe that everyone got their ideas across. And that is how a good debate happens. even though we all, I think, well, not all, but some of us fundamentally disagree with what's been said. But nevertheless, Khalid has offered this wonderful platform for these views to be shared and ideas to be communicated. So thank you, Khalid.
Well,
And
thank
everybody
you all.
who's
Yeah,
helped
yeah, that was great.
and contributed.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to put a link to, we're going to do another topic now. Essentially, why relationships are not working in the West. I think it's an incredibly important topic.
Well, I have a lot of input in this one.
Yeah. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to the YouTube video now, and then I'm going to close this stream. And then when you're on that stream, I'll also put an invite link to if you want to be on camera as well. So there is the link to the next discussion. It's called, I've entitled it to make it more interesting for everybody, like anybody just coming along it. 70% of relationships fail. Here's why. So it's essentially why relationships fail in the West. So so I'm going to close this one. Bye.
No. Before you go,
Go on. Something
thing,
else to say? Go on. Yeah.
Can I just say, can we make the next topic 30 minutes long? That means 5 minutes each. And then
Okay.
1 minute. So
okay. I mean, we'll see who turns up, but yeah.
Oh yeah. According to if everyone turns up, but we should be quite strict. Because
let's aim for half an hour. Okay, fair enough. Otherwise, we'll be here partying all night, talking to each other.
Exactly.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. Okay, we're going now. Bye.
Bye. Happy?